Hi, I'm Sarah and welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I would do the Booktube Newbie Tag, as this is only my second video, so I thought it would be a good way to get to know me a bit better, and so I can discuss some of my reasons for starting this channel, etc. So question number one is, why did you start this channel? I suppose there are a couple of reasons. Firstly, I don't have a lot of other readers in my life, really. I have some friends that read, but they don't really read the same sort of books as me. The same, like my mum is quite a big reader, but she doesn't. We don't really have any books in common. So I'd really like some people to chat about books too, because I spend so much time reading, and it just seems a shame that I don't really get much discussion about some of the books that I'm reading. So that's one reason. And secondly, just I really love literature, and I just want to be able to share that and talk about it, give some book recommendations, because I've read some really great books, especially over the last 4 years where I've been reading a lot. I just feel like I've accumulated so many good book recommendations that I just really want to be able to have a platform to share them on. And question number two is, what are some fun and unique things that you bring to Booktube? I don't know, this one's kind of a bit of like a job interview type question. I'm not sure I bring any unique things particularly, but I guess I read a lot of different books that I don't see talked about often, so I'd like to be able to share those. I also have a lot of good ideas for, well, good is questionable, but some ideas that I'm excited to make for YouTube videos, some vlogs, stuff like that, and yeah, just sharing my life, really. I'm most excited about for this channel? Well, I suppose developing my reading taste. I'm hoping that I'm always trying to find new types of books that I've either books that I've not come across or genres that I've not really dipped into, and I think that having a booktube channel could push me out of my comfort zone a bit, so I'm really excited for that. And yeah, just being able to share all of the great books I'm reading, I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. Number four is, when did you start reading? I think I read a lot as a young child, and then sort of throughout my teenage years I read a little bit less. I read all of the Harry Potter books, and I read a series of unfortunate events, and then as a teenager I read a lot of the Jacqueline Wilson stuff. I read some of the Twilight books, stuff like that, but I would say that I seriously got into reading maybe about 5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, sort of during the first lockdown. I'd always read before that, but that was when I seriously started reading a lot, and I think my love of literature has just grown from there. So yeah, question five sort of follows on from that. It's, what books or series got you into reading? Yeah, I've mentioned some of the series I read as a child, but in terms of more recently, when I started reading 4 or 5 years ago, I read some books that just sort of opened up my mind as to what literature could be. I know that sounds a bit ridiculous, but I read Emma by Jane Austen, and I'd read some classics before in school and stuff, but I was just so amazed at how funny Emma is. It's a hilarious book, and how can Jane Austen have written that 200 years ago? So that really opened up my mind as to what classics could be. They don't need to be really boring, dry books. They can be really funny. So I'd say that Emma is a book that definitely made me love reading. Another book that I just was so informative and really opened my mind to the stuff that happened in the world that I didn't know about was Wild Swans, which I read maybe when I was 20. And yeah, I just got so sucked into this story about communist China, and at that point, as I say, I only read this when I was 20. I didn't know much about China at all, so to read this and be like, oh my god, all of this stuff happened, was just, yeah, it just really made me stop and think. And that's what's so great about reading. I'm still discovering stuff that I'd never heard about that happened 50, 60, 70 years ago, and books is a great way to make that really relevant. You're reading someone's perspective from so long ago, and it feels really poignant still. And then the other book that I think really got me into reading was Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie, which I read, yeah, right at the start of lockdown, so about 4 years ago. And I just fell in love with his writing style in this. I've since read another Salman Rushdie book, The Enchantress of Florence, and really didn't like it. So I'm not sure if this is an author that I'm going to continue to read more of, but yeah, his prose style in Midnight's Children was so different from anything I'd ever read that I was wow, this is incredible. This is such a beautiful book. I just couldn't yeah, I just couldn't believe it. Number 6 is what kind of books do you read? I'd say that I read a mixture of different genres. I'd say that I read quite a lot of classics and modern classics, just because I think like if people are still talking about a book that's 60 plus years old or even 40 years old, like it's got to have some sort of merit to it. I try and read across different like authors from different countries as much as possible. I try to read books in translation. I really love Japanese literature. I love books set in India. I also recently have been getting into more memoirs and sort of essays. So I think I read quite a wide genre of books. I also read some literary fiction. I'm basically willing to try anything. The genres that I say I read less of are fantasy and romance and sci-fi, although I have maybe romance less so, but I have found some sci-fi and fantasy books that I have enjoyed, and I would really like to develop that more. It's just not like I don't really know where to start, so that's also another reason why I'm keen to start a YouTube channel, to try and get some recommendations or places to start. Number 7 is why do you love reading? I think I love reading because there's no better feeling than having a book that you're just loving. Like it's just so much better than watching a good film or a TV series. You just get so sucked into it, and it's because I think you're imagining everything for yourself. It just seems such a personal experience. And I love learning about new things and just people's stories. I love hearing about people whose lives are completely different to mine. And I just think that books is a great way to do that. And then the next question is, what questions would you have for your fellow booktubers? I'm not sure that I have any particular questions for them, but I thought I would just give a shout out to some channels that I really love and that have sort of inspired me to make my YouTube channel. So some of the sort of bigger YouTubers that I love, Sunbeam's Jess. I think that like her thoughts on and musings on literature are so insightful, and she is a really like close reader. I think when she has a lot of complex thoughts about books, and I'm always really interested to hear what she has to say. And then I really love Savage Reads. I really love his vlogs. I think he's really funny, and I just love seeing what he gets up to. I also really like Jen Campbell's vlogs, especially her themed vlogs, and she goes on walks and she bakes cakes, and I really like her content. And also Mercedes, I think that like she has such a good idea of what she likes in literature, and she reads a lot of books that I've never heard about. And she's also brutally honest, which I really enjoy. Like if she doesn't like a book, she's not going to say, oh, it was like okay. She's very honest, and I really appreciate that. And then some smaller channels that I also really enjoy watching. I love Redhead Reading. I think that she reads such a wide variety of books. I'm always interested to see like what she's reading and where she found out about it. We don't always have the same taste in books, but some of the books she reads are books I've never heard of, and it makes me want to pick them up. I also like Sandy from Miss Reads a Lot. I love following along in her 1001 book challenge, seeing how she's getting along with that. I also like Bibliosophie. I think that her reading taste is really cool. She reads a lot of really interesting books, and I love her sort of just snippets of her life. She lives in New York and she's a singer, and she leads such a cool life. And I also love Nathan's Nook. I think he's really funny, and he reads so much as well, and his reviews are always just really entertaining to watch. Number 9 is, what are the challenges of starting a YouTube channel? I think for me they're quite practical challenges. I've never really done much video editing before, so that's going to be interesting. I think just time management, like I work a full-time job. I'm normally quite busy at the weekends, so it's going to be interesting to see how I manage to fit all this in. But it's definitely something that I am going to try and prioritise for the rest of the year and see how it goes. Number 10 is, where do you read? I'm definitely a morning reader. I feel like that's maybe quite unusual in the booktube community. I feel like more people read it in the evening, but I'm just such a morning person, so I try and read before work. I just feel like my brain is more active then, and I can take more stuff in. So I normally read in the living room. My boyfriend's still asleep, so I normally go through there and have a quiet reading time. I make myself a coffee, and it's very pleasant. And I also love reading on holiday. It's like the best time to read when you just got hours and you can just relax and enjoy a good book. And number 11 is, what does your book collection look like? I'm not the best book collector because I try and take books out of the library where possible. I will sort of donate books if I've not enjoyed them. I really try and only keep books that I've loved, so that when I look at my shelves I'm like, oh wow, I've read so many great books. I don't want to look at my shelves and think, oh, there's a book I didn't like. So because of that, my collection's quite sporadic. I'm also quite limited on space. I've had a few bookcases collapse on me because they've been too heavy, so I need to really be careful with how I stack my books. I have like one Billy bookcase and then a smaller bookcase in the living room. But yeah, I'd say that over the last year I've been reading more books that I own because I moved house, and the library that my local library now has a much smaller book selection. Before that, I lived in Edinburgh, which had an amazing, their libraries it's incredible. So I would say that for the like year and a half before that, basically all of the books I read were from the library. I've gone on to buy a couple of the books that I read if I found nice copies in charity shops cheap, but yeah, I'm not the best book collector. It's something that I would like to have a copy of every book that I've enjoyed, but just money wise, like I read so many books that I want to prioritize buying books that I've not yet read so that I can read them and get enjoyment out of them rather than buying a huge list of books that I have read. Yeah, so that's all of the questions. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I'm planning for the next sort of couple of months to post 2 times a week, see how that goes. So yeah, please follow along if you've enjoyed my video and you'd like to see more.